Hi, good morning, Charles.
Hi, good morning, Barbara.
We're really glad that you are joining us for the conference, but specifically that you came early enough to have this conversation with us about your work. And I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions that will get us kind of oriented a little bit about you and your background and the work that you do. So, yeah, okay. So, first of all, you are a graduate of independent schools.
Yeah.
Grace Church School and St. Paul School. And I wonder if you could reflect on your schooling, and was there something in your educational background in independent schools that led you in some way to your philanthropic outlook and the work that you're doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I owe the debt of a lifetime to Grace Church School and St. Paul School and the education they gave me. I have especially vivid and fond memories of the teachers I had through all those grades, starting with Miss Reed in junior kindergarten, where I remember on the first day of school getting a little certificate because I knew how to tie my shoe, which was she made me think was impressive. All the way through Mr. Buxton, who was my wrestling coach and English teacher at St. Paul's, who was just an incredible educator and coach, and who I really looked up to, and I kind of figured if anyone ever looked up to me the way that I looked up to Mr. Buxton, I would have done my share in life. And so two things I would point out about my independent school background. One is the amazing teachers I had who made me want to be a teacher, and without that I would never have started DonorsChoose.org, because I wouldn't have found myself teaching at a high school in the Bronx in my effort to be like Mr. Buxton. And then the second thing was just the incredible education I received, and the resources available to me at Grace Church and at St. Paul's were so different from the resources available to my students when I started teaching in the Bronx. And that difference between the materials and experiences I had access to at Grace Church and St. Paul's as compared to the materials and experiences available to my students at the high school in the Bronx where I was teaching, that disparity is what prompted me to start DonorsChoose.org.
And as you were pursuing a career in education as a teacher, did you ever think that you would consider teaching in an independent school, or were you moved to teach in a public school in the Bronx as you ended up doing?
Yeah, I wanted to teach where the economic need was greatest, and I'm sure there actually would have been a handful of independent school options, even if my criterion was, the wanting to serve where the economic need was greatest. But it was most straightforward at the time to send a cover letter and resume out to 100-odd public schools in New York City that might be willing to take me. And I think the school where I taught was the one and only school that actually returned my respondent.
Yeah, I bet the others are really mad at themselves.
Oh, I don't know.
In thinking about your philanthropic work and founding an organization that sort of marries technology and philanthropy and education as it does, looking back at your experience at St. Paul's and at Grace, what could they have done differently that would have better prepared you, or do you feel like you had all the preparation you needed to start Donors Choose?
Well, I liken web development to woodworking, which Grace Church School taught me. So for me, thinking about the next feature we're going to build on DonorsChoose.org, exactly how it's going to function, how it's going to look, how we're going to explain it to users, kind of pushes the same buttons as carpentry, because both involve being very precise in your planning and thinking very carefully about how the pieces will fit together. But then once you've started to construct the thing, then you have to improvise and not insist that everything fit exactly according to your original plan. Also, you just get the thrill of seeing something sort of become manifest. So in any case, so that I have Grace Church to thank for. If there's one thing I wish I could rewind and do over, it more relates to college, and that would be taking computer science courses, which I failed to do during college, and which I wish I could go back and do over.
And there probably wasn't much at Grace at the time that you were there.
That's right.
Or probably at St. Paul's either.
You know, at St. Paul's they did offer some computer science classes, which I failed to take, so that was my fault, not St. Paul's.
In thinking about your work with Donors Choose, which targets public schools, which is just terrific. I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about kind of the public-private partnership, because I know I think you're absolutely have focused so well on helping teachers in public schools to achieve their goals based on this philanthropic crowdsourcing. How can we in the private school, independent school sector help with that?
Well, I love that question. First, I would just point out that I feel like someone who wants to support education at an independent school feels pretty good donating directly to that independent school and working with a development director to come up with something that will make a big impact that they can donate to. That's not the case for someone who wants to support classrooms in public schools. We began 14 years ago because we sensed that a lot of people were uneasy about making, especially a small donation, to a large school district, not really knowing where their contribution was going to go or how it would be used. And so in part I think that the thrill I hope people have when they're giving to specific projects on donorschoose.org is something that I think independent schools are doing a pretty good job of doing right now. But I'd like to think that donorschoose.org and the crowdfunding movement in general shows that even in independent schools and even with their fundraising efforts, more people are asking for a sense of tangibility in what they're giving to. That they want to identify a project that matches their own kind of values and background and see exactly where their money is going and almost be able to isolate their impact amongst all the other donations being made to a school. And so we hope that our site will be a little bit of inspiration to advancement officers at an independent school.
Yeah. And I can also see how independent school classes could pick a project on Donors Choose and raise money toward it. You know, it would be a way for private school kids to fund public school teachers.
Absolutely.
And their work.
And I'll just add that actually, as just one example of the kind of sibling relationships that can be forged between an independent school and a public school through donorschoose.org. At Rodolphe Shalom Hebrew School, their program on tzedakah uses donorschoose.org because I think a lot of kids in middle and junior high school wouldn't be quite as excited to read over 20-page grant applications and big sort of institutional proposals, but seeing sort of 5-paragraph project proposals where a kid can say, oh, that sounds like an awesome science experiment or field trip or book that these students want to read. I wish I had that in my own classroom. I'm going to back that project. That can be that can really bring philanthropy home and make it really personal.
When you started Donors Choose, did you ever think that it would become sort of an instrument for school reform, which it kind of has been? All the data you collect has actually impacted school reform, and how? I mean, was that a happy accident, or was it part of the planning?
It was more of a happy accident. I can't say that when we began 14 years ago that we had any vision for opening up our data so that government officials and policymakers could see exactly what teachers need. I didn't have any such idea. Really, in the beginning, it was just my colleagues and I at this high school in the Bronx spending a lot of our own money on copy paper and pencils, having all these ideas for books we wanted our students to read and a field trip we wanted to take them on, sensing that there were people out there who would want to help us if they could see where their money was going, and figuring, well, this is the way we'll finally get those books and take our students on that field trip. And I'm afraid it wasn't any more strategic or policy-minded than that. But since launching and since our growth, we've seen these opportunities to use crowdfunding to actually change the system itself.
Well, we are really looking forward to hearing more about that.
Thank you,
And
Barbara.
I really appreciate your being with us.
Thank you for
Thanks so
having me.
much.
Thanks,
Yep.
Barbara.